Okay, it shows that I'm live. So it's been a couple weeks, I guess, since I've stopped through here and talked with y'all. It's the 2022 midterm elections. It appears that the Republicans are poised to win the House, and according to 538, the Senate's a toss-up. It could go either to the Republicans or the Democrats, but I'm going to play it safe and say the Republicans are going to take back the Senate. They're up in Nevada, so that takes a seat away from the Democrats. Um, they are. They might not be up in Georgia, but I'm going to just go ahead for the safety of things. Say they are up in Georgia. They're very close in Arizona and Pennsylvania. So who knows? Maybe they walk away with all four of them seats. That'll give them a very comfortable control. But anyway, so that being said, I'm a I'm pretty upset about the way things are going. There are election deniers that I'm pretty sure are going to win. That's probably going to cause chaos. Donald Trump is already talking about coming back, and I'm almost certain that whether he wins or not, he's going to be president in 2025. Regardless of whether we like it or lump it, it doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure that's just the way it's going to be. And I'm really upset. I'm 28 years old, getting into the good, really good part of my adult years, and this happens. And it bothers me because back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, you didn't have this garbage. This stuff didn't happen. The idea of an election denier running for president again, an election deniers running for public office in so many of these states, it was just insane to not concede an election. I mean, the 2020 election was not conceded by Donald Trump at all. And many Republicans have largely picked up his playbook and ran with him, which is kind of disappointing to me because I've been a Republican my whole life. At least I was I was more favorable to the Republicans, and now it's just disheartening because it was the party of Lincoln, and now they act like the party of I guess the party of George Wallace. And George Wallace was a Democrat, but they're acting like George Wallace, the way they just demonize. If you're not with them, then you're evil. According to them, basically, if you're liberal, you're evil. If you're a moderate, you're evil. You have to be a staunch Trumpist in order to be a good person, it seems like. Now, I've never gotten cast out by Trump supporters. They've always been nice to me, and in fact, they're probably nicer people than a lot of people on the left, to tell you the truth. Just saying, liberals, you're not so righteous and holy as you like to think you are, because you don't know how to treat anybody, even people who disagree with you. But that being said, though, I'm really kind of bitter about the fact that disinformation is so prevalent in America. And listening to reporters and journalists, and people are willingly ignorant. And it goes from the Gen Z generation through the millennials being kind of a little bit out of touch with reality to some degree. I mean, Gen Z is kind of self-centered, and they don't necessarily well, they can't always tell their head from a hole in the ground. Sometimes is what I feel like, but we can't blame them though, because boomers have been in charge for years. And I've gotten to a point where whenever a boomer goes making comments about Gen Z or millennials, I'm getting to a point. I haven't said as much, but I'm probably going to be getting to a point where I want to say, look, I don't really want to hear about it anymore, because your generation has been in charge for decades now. Mm-hmm. And if things aren't any better than this, then let's blame you. Y'all were the parents. Y'all were the grandparents. Y'all were the politicians. Y'all were the leaders in every which way imaginable. But not even that. Boomers and Gen X are very self-centered in some ways. Like they think they're always right. I mean, y'all have been through life. Y'all have, and I think this frustrates me so bad. Y'all have been through life. Y'all know how to parent. Judging by Gen Z, I'm questioning how good of parents you were, but either way, it is what it is. Y'all have usually worked hard all of your lives. That's commendable. You provided for your families. That's commendable. But on politics, y'all gravitate towards some of the most insane people. And it makes no sense to me at all. I don't understand it. Like, Tucker Carlson is so popular on Fox News. He's nothing but an entertainer. He acts like he's a patriot and a journalist. No, he's not. Because he tells half of the truth at best. A lot of times he'll get up there and say half the truth, half the facts. Like there was a segment I saw this week about that some representatives for True the Vote, which is a right-wing so-called election security organization, they go on Tucker Carlson's program and some of these people from True the Vote are in prison right now. Well, they're in prison for not revealing, supposedly from their point of view, revealing a source of information. The problem is they're taken to court for defamation against this Michigan-based digital company or some kind of a technology company called Connect, Konnech, Konnech, I think is how it's spelled, I want to say. And they've lied about Konnech, about how they're producing the software that flips votes or something like that. I can't remember. Let me pull it back up. I'm gonna look it up on my phone right now. And there was an article on CNN about it, and I'm gonna read it out for y'all. Hold on. Okay, so this is according to CNN. Everything takes a moment to load, especially when I'm recording live. It gets frustrating. There's two leaders of True the Vote, a prominent right-wing group that promotes debunked voter fraud conspiracies, were jailed this week after a federal judge in Texas found them in contempt of court. The group's president, Catherine Engelbrecht, I think I'm saying her name correctly, and one-time board member, Greg Phillips, were taken into custody Monday after defying a court order to reveal more details in a civil case about one of their controversial attempts to uncover supposed fraud in the 2020 election. Court records indicate that Engelbrecht and Phillips are currently being held at the Joe Corley Detention Facility in Conroe, Texas. The two activists will remain in custody at the Federal Detention Center until they abide by the court's order, according to court filings. Attorneys for True the Vote are expediting an appeal for their release, their group said in a statement to CNN. The current dispute stems from a lawsuit brought by Konnech, Konnech, that's how it's spelled. I was right. An election logistics software company that sued True the Vote and the two leaders for defamation, libel, and slander. In recent months, True the Vote has pushed conspiracy theories about Konnech and the 2020 election, falsely claiming Konnech helped Joe Biden steal the election. True the Vote is one of the most prominent conservative groups that peddle baseless claims of massive voter fraud and has championed so-called election integrity efforts for years. Their work fueled by the debunked film 2000 Mules, and if you watch that documentary, which I have, it's worth looking for a sheet that debunks them. Like NPR did a article about it, because there's some very key, important things that they left out. And I'm probably going to need to do a video about 2000 Mules myself to point out some of the things that they got wrong. It's something that needs to be done. Anyway, to continue on, which falsely claims Biden's victory in 2020 was illegitimately achieved through systematic voter fraud. Engelbrecht and Phillips have previously claimed that they and their analysts hacked a server, which is illegal, and gained access to Connick's data, and that the information on the server corroborated their unproven claims of election fraud. True the Vote has not offered any evidence that they successfully hacked Connick or that Connick was involved in any election fraud. So they're not offering any evidence here. They're not even showing that they successfully hacked Connick, and yet they're in prison because they won't comply with the court order to release this so-called information. All they would have to do is say, okay, which this might give them jail time, depending on how they messed up with the law, saying that, okay, we lied. Of course, that might in and of itself be jail time, if you lied to court about having something and you didn't. The court order in part required True the Vote's leaders to hand over the allegedly hacked documents, identify the people involved in the alleged hack, and confidentially tell Connick how they hacked their system. Engelbrecht and Phillips were jailed after they failed to comply with those parts by the judge's Monday morning deadline. An attorney for True the Vote, Engelbrecht and Phillips, referred CNN to the group's statement. In the statement, Engelbrecht went on to claim that she and Phillips would be held in jail until we agree to give up the name of a person we believe was not covered under the terms of the judge's order. Sorry, if the judge ordered it to be done, then it doesn't matter who's involved. They're already involved if they're involved with you. So, but anyway, so I'm typing something else in about Tucker Carlson. So that was CNN's reporting on that, and I use CNN because based on what I understand, they have standards and ethics. I think they go by the ethics laid out by the Professional Society of Journalists, which is definitely a organization worth following. They do good work. They have guidelines and rules for journalists to follow, and I think it's very good. But people are believing this stuff. And Tucker Carlson had these people on his show, and their version of events was the court is trying to force them to reveal their sources. The problem is number one, you have to be able to back it up. You have to be able to prove that this information exists. For example, like if the New York Times or CNN, if they report something very sensitive about the government or anybody, they've got the documentation, they've got the evidence. They might not let you know who did it, but they've got the work of the person that did it. And so, and even under situations like that, a hacker in and of himself is not legal. What they try to protect are not hackers. They try to protect whistleblowers, people working within the company, blowing the whistle, saying, hey, there's improprieties going on here. There's something wrong. The public needs to see this. Not some hacker that they paid money to. You're paying someone to break the law legitimately. This is not somebody of goodwill on the inside of the company. This is someone of bad faith who's probably criminal on the outside that you're paying. And you're trying to pretend like they're your source. Come on. This is nonsense. And you're still not producing the goods besides that. You're going out tarnishing Connick's name and not producing any evidence of whatsoever. So with that being said, Tucker Carlson always has these people on his show all the time, and I don't know where I can find it at. My mom she sent me a a clip of it from Rumble. I do not get on Rumble. I'm not interested in Rumble. Anyway, and it's stuff like this that keeps people divided because people won't watch CNN because CNN, to be fair, under Jeff Zucker's watch, made a lot of missteps and got all into this personality thing. It became talk television, basically. Instead of a news channel, it became a talk channel. Well, we got those all over cable and all over the media in general. In my book, it was just a classier version of The View, which is a show that I don't care a whole lot about. My view is that they should go away, but it's for there's a lot of people out there that like it apparently, so ABC is going to keep it out. But CNN was just maybe a step up, being a slightly classier version of that. The people on CNN did know what they were talking about, and most of the time they were is like Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon, who I agreed with a lot of the time. I at the same time didn't agree that they should be the ones going out there strutting their feathers, their peacock feathers, and acting like, grandstanding about these issues. I didn't think they should be doing that. I thought it's your job as a reporter or a journalist to kind of keep your head down and do your work and let people decide for themselves. Chris Licht, who's now in charge of CNN, CNN was bought out by an actual media company called Discovery. Unlike AT&T, their former owners that were, I didn't really like them being owned by AT&T personally. I was more relieved when Discovery bought them out, and now they got Chris Licht in charge, who's kind of having a rough time right now, but at the same time, he's trying to make CNN less partisan. But despite that, they have very high standards. When they report something, it's most likely going to be accurate. They're most likely going to have done their homework to be fair and accurate. It might not be flattering if you're kind of under the microscope, if you're the one who's kind of the target of their reporting, you ain't going to feel too good about it. But that doesn't mean that they're wrong. Because if they're on your trail, you've probably done something. And Trump has done a lot. And so is the modern Republicans. And what folks don't realize is CNN wasn't doing this to quote-unquote Republicans like 20 years ago, because back then, 20 and 30 years ago, Republicans acted right. When the Gingrich Revolution began, that's when Republicans started sliding. They started, with Rush Limbaugh. And Rush Limbaugh, I think, was a catalyst for the Republican Party. He started steering the party in the direction that they shouldn't have gone. Lying, being dishonest about Democrats. And I'm not someone who's just all in defending Democrats all the time, because I don't think they're right all the time. They're politicians too. We need politicians, that being said, but the Democrats do have a sense of shame about them, and they can't just get away with anything like what Republicans can. They might have dumb policies in your perspective, and if you want to say they've got dumb policies, go right ahead. Because there are things that Democrats do that just, it's like, are they trying to lose an election or something? Or, what are you doing here? But that being said, Republicans take small mistakes that Democrats make and kind of add a bit of lies to it. And there might be a kernel of truth in some of the things that they do, but then they take it and just blow it out of the water. And they terrify voters with it, particularly their base. They have you believing that Democrats are opening up the borders. They've not opened up the borders. The borders are still closed. Title 42 that Trump put in place is still in effect. It's not changed. Now, is the border being inundated? Yeah, it is. We need more border guards. We need more staff down there for sure. But it's not open. It's just overwhelmed. It's kind of like your doors are closed, your windows are closed, but there's a flood. Because water is coming in your house does not mean your doors are open. It just means they're coming through the cracks. You see, you're being inundated. You can't stop it. Your house is built to protect against irregular rain, not against a flood. And that's how I would say the border is right now, the same thing would be happening under the Trump administration, because it kind of already did happen back in 2019 and 2018. The only thing is, Trump did some things that made it worse. He's pretending to want to stop it. And I do believe he wanted to stop it, but he wanted to be inhumane about it. And I'm not about that either. So this is what we got to look forward to, more polarization. But I'm trying to implore people, listen to one another. And if you're a conservative, most likely you're probably anywhere from 40 to 70. A lot of my generation gets a lot of things wrong. I'm a young millennial, right before the Gen Z generation. There's a lot of things my generation gets wrong, but remember, you raised us. Also, I want to add, we're not wrong about everything. Like, climate change is a problem, and my generation is upset about climate change, and your generation is not. Y'all want to act like it's not happening at all, and it is happening. It's a problem. Florida eventually will probably sink. I say sink. It'll be flooded out if things keep going as they are now. You all will probably be dead by then, and I will probably have one foot in the grave myself if I make it that long. But nevertheless, we're leaving future generations with the problem, and y'all refuse to accept that. And fossil fuel industries have y'all convinced through Fox News and the Republican Party, because they're the best messengers for big fossil fuels. And y'all like to say there's big green energy, which that doesn't exist yet. Will it? Probably in the future, yes, I'm sure. Right now it doesn't exist, but big oil does. And we keep pumping carbon into the air, which makes our ecosystem worse off because it has the greenhouse effect. Anyways, I need to get off here. I've rambled on enough. I'm just fussing. I'm just complaining. I probably should change the title of the video to a rant, just the midterm election rant. But anyway, I haven't scripted anything out. This is just me talking off the top of my head, so it is what it is. Anyway, if you disagree with me, that's fine. It's a free country, but please listen to me. One of the reasons why we're in a problem is because we get our news from sources that are not trustworthy. I don't, because I have a lot of confidence in the mainstream media, and not all of them, but most of them. CNN, in my view, is trying to pull themselves back up, but the Associated Press is the top one. Your newspapers are top one. Read your local paper. That's very important. Anyway, so I've ranted enough. It's gone on to 23 minutes now. So I'll talk to you all later, and y'all have a good weekend.